So I'm here with teachers and students in our drama and music programs, and it's a joy to talk with you all. The performing arts are so important here at Trinity to what we do. Our mission to be a school that teaches from the perspective of truth, goodness, and beauty, and the arts capture all three of those in powerful ways, and especially that last piece, educating in beauty. I think of what you all do and how important it is, and I'm really thankful for the work that our teachers, directors do. Could you all just introduce yourselves? Could we start, Carrie, with you?
Sure.
And your role here in the arts program?
Yeah, so I teach middle school drama typically, but this year we've kind of combined that with our middle school chorus resource. And so we have a middle school musical coming up, so I'm directing that as well as teaching lower school music.
Great.
I'm Jessica. I'm a senior, and I am doing the musical as my capstone. So running around with scenes and makeup and hair and making sure everything works the way it's supposed to.
Yeah,
She's
that's
very
great.
good at it.
That's great. And Capstone, not everyone who's watching this might know what a capstone is.
So Capstone is a senior project that all of the seniors get to do during their senior year. I started mine in September. Typically you do like either a semester 1 or semester 2, but since the musical was sort of a larger project, I started in September and I'll finish March and April. So
Great.
yes.
That's very exciting. I can't wait to see it. It's this weekend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and then we have an upper school play coming up soon. And
We
Becky,
do.
you'll introduce yourself.
I'm Becky Gould. I teach upper school drama. And our play this year is The Sting, based on the 1973 Academy Award-winning movie, starring Robert Redford and Paul Newman, whom these children know not at all. But this has been a lot
This
of fun.
is Robert Redford.
This is Robert Redford 2.0. Tommy Biggs.
Yeah, well, I'm Tommy Biggs, and I am Johnny Hooker, who is, I guess, the protagonist of The Sting.
That's great. So I'd like to ask the students and both of you to speak. And Jessica, you've been involved in drama throughout your career, and
Yeah.
Tommy, you've been in a number of plays. What have you enjoyed about your experiences?
My favorite thing is the first day of class. We're looking at the script. We're going through the characters, figuring out how they kind of fit into the larger scheme, and then just taking those pieces. And by the final night, when we perform it for everybody, seeing how all those pieces fit together and really
Yeah.
creating a great experience for the audience.
That's great. Yeah. Tommy, what would you say?
My favorite thing actually might be a kind of unpopular opinion, but I really, really love production week. Because although some people get really, really tired of the constant, like, having to go through it again and again and again, trying to get it perfect, I just feel like the drama class always gets really, really close, and lots of inside jokes, lots of community there. And production week is just kind of when all that really comes out. Because you got people on stage, and then you got the people off stage talking, chatting, cracking jokes, playing games, and then you go on and you're also just being able to hop in and out, and it's pretty much just like one giant hangout session where you get to be up on stage as well.
Yeah. And it's the culmination of so much work. I'm sure there's a adrenaline rush, and there's just
Yeah.
Lots of
Fear.
Fear.
Yeah, there's
Panic.
the fear.
Yeah.
Well, and as directors, you all probably have often experienced that sense of, will this really come
yeah.
together? Can you say, yeah,
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about that?
There was one night I went home after a dress rehearsal and thought, would anyone notice if I canceled the play?
But then,
But
you
then
didn't.
we didn't, and it was fabulous. And that's
Yeah.
often the way, especially we're so close to it. We've worked on it so hard and so long, and we have this idea that we started with of what we thought it might be, and then that changes, and we adapt to this new idea of what it can be, and without fail, these kids pull it out. And so, regardless of the things we might list under the disasters during dress rehearsal, the performances are really great.
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably a good word for you to hear right now. This
Yes.
is rehearsal week for you.
It is. So we're at the moment where I really also kind of like production week because
Yeah.
it is this moment where everything gels and you do get to see the things that you've envisioned happening on stage in front of you. And what my favorite part is seeing students see that happen when they go, oh, all this choreography that we've been working on in isolation or the song we've been practicing, when we put it up on stage in costume, with the set behind us, in character, with the lights on us, they kind of get the glimpse of what that will look like for the audience, and it brings new life into jokes that you've told 1,000 times because you've rehearsed them so many times. It's such a fun experience for everybody to get to have that moment where everybody starts to realize, oh, this is what is possible this weekend.
Yeah, that's great. I wanted to ask students especially, but love to hear from the teachers too, what do you learn in music and drama classes and in these productions that is a unique part of your Trinity education? Maybe something that you wouldn't have learned in your other classes.
Well, I'll start, I guess. I feel like performance theater really, really helps you, like, it teaches you how to talk in front of people. Like, I know we have rhetoric class, but being a one-semester class, you can only get so far with that. I mean, probably one of the things that specifically I've learned the most is how to act or how to work in front of people. Because 7th grade, I was in a production, I was crying over, freaking out over, don't put me on stage, don't put me on stage, don't put me on stage, don't let me in front of people. And now I can pretty smoothly walk out in front of a crowd and say something or do a presentation in class without panicking as much.
Yeah.
Because it's just, you get used to it.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with that. I would also say I found that when you're doing a big production like this, you can't do it by yourself. And so you're really working with other people, and it teaches you the value of working with a team and bringing other people's skills to the table and how we can use that to make something that could be good a lot better.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's great. I love both those things you're sharing, and the team aspect. We think of team in athletics, but there's so many other things at Trinity too that develop this sense of team and bring it together. Yeah. And Tommy, what you said about public speaking and public presence, I think that's one of the most important life skills that Trinity can teach students, especially in a knowledge economy where communication is so important. I hear that from our alums, that they really value their, when they get out there and they realize, I'm comfortable doing this and not everyone around me has learned to do this. And so I hope all our Trinity students learn this, but you that are involved in the performing arts really get to hone your skills at this. That's great. So Carrie and Becky, how have you seen students at Trinity grow through this program?
I think there are lots of ways and lots of really exciting experiences that students have opportunities to grow. One of my favorite things about the arts, and one of the reasons I feel very passionately about the arts is, and the way we approach it here at Trinity, is students have the opportunity to try lots of different things. They get to try a semester of performance theater, they get to try a semester of vocal ensemble, they're in chorus, they might be in robotics, they get to try lots of different things. And there is room and there is space for them to figure out what things are their things that they want to continue on, what they have a passion for. And I feel the way our arts program is established here at Trinity, there's a lot of opportunities for students to maybe find out some giftings that they didn't know that they had. When you put someone up on stage who reads a part and everybody starts cracking up and they didn't realize they had this great stage presence until you throw them up there and say, can you just read this for me and see? And so giving them the opportunity to experiment, to try things, to fail, to be stretched outside of their comfort zone, and to encourage them, even if something isn't in their comfort zone, to give it their best efforts and to learn the perseverance of a job well done, even if it's not something that is right up your alley as well. I think are all really valuable things, and the things I like watching in students, I always enjoy seeing from the beginning of class until production week, just where a student starts and where they end, and the growth that they see, not just as a performer, not just as an artist, but as a person as they learn those skills of dedication and diligence and study and focus focus and giving your all to something, not just like you were saying, not just for the good of your performance, but for the good of the ensemble and the good of the group that is working together.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I would echo all of that. You can see it with individual students just how they grow over the course of a production. And then those kids who might have taken drama because it was the least of three evils and they have to take an arts credit, then discover, oh, well, this is actually not just not bad, but kind of fun.
Yeah.
And then they come back. And that's great to see over the course of a career at the upper school, how, especially those who've started and stuck with it for 4 years, how they have grown as individuals and as performers, and the opportunities that they have for leadership, and it's a wonderful way. Arts provide such a wonderful way for kids to tap into all kinds of things that might lie dormant in other disciplines, because it gives them a chance to play different characters and which I think fosters empathy, and a sense of who is this person and what do I have in common with this person, or how am I going to bring this emotion to life on stage, and how is that going to feel truthful? And that requires imagination and creativity, as well as sort of the hard work and the discipline and all the other things. So it's a wonderful combination of all those sort of skills.
Yeah, that's great. And the size of Trinity makes that possible for so many
Right.
students. And it's-
Right.
give us a sense of how many students are involved in the drama program now and the musical. I mean, what are we talking about?
Well, we have, this semester, our cast is 27 strong.
Wow.
So that makes that team room in the gym basement a little crowded. But that's great. I think this is the largest cast that we've had, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, that's great.
And we have opened up the musical to as many as we could get. And so we have 46 middle school students, 7th and 8th graders, many of whom this is their first kind of big production like this. This might be their first foray into drama, period, and then also singing and dancing and maneuvering around the stage and choreography it's been a really interesting challenge and a really fun opportunity just to see, but then also to hear the sound that they can produce vocally when they sing, or just the picture that it paints on stage. To have that many students involved is just a really beautiful opportunity to see.
It's great. And talk a little bit about the chance for people who don't necessarily want to be on stage to be involved. What kind of opportunities are there?
Well, we don't have as many as I would like, just because our technical theater side is, we don't really have one. So, and because it's a class, it can be hard to figure out ways to involve a lot of kids who don't want parts, all semester, because the production week is big in terms of tech, and there's a lot of sound and things that can be done. It's not necessarily a semester's worth of work, but there's always a role for a stage manager, which is a significant role, and doesn't require stage presence, but requires organization and bossiness and confidence and all these things that you also want to inculcate in kids. So yeah.
And oftentimes our casts end up, making props or
Right, yeah, they do it all. Right.
foraging to Goodwill for, we need
Right.
6 vases this color. Can you
Right.
go find them, or whatever it might be. So, and I know our Capstone students have had an opportunity to help costume, and they're planning on doing a makeup workshop for the people who are going to come and volunteer.
Right.
So they've gotten some additional opportunities with helping with the middle school students.
Yeah, that's great. Jessica, I'd love to hear some of what you have learned through your capstone.
So I did a little bit of assistant directing my freshman and sophomore year, but to be honest, that was kind of more just like being in the room, making sure the kids didn't go crazy. And so this year, Mississippi has really given me the chance to kind of take ownership of parts of the play. I have 2 scenes that I have blocked from beginning to end, kind of going through, okay, so you say these lines, but what are you going to do while you're saying them? and as well as like the motivation. So why are you going from point A to point B? What is motivating you to do that, either in the blocking or in the lines or in the character development? So that has been really inspiring to, so drama is one of my passions. I love doing drama. I love working with kids. I love just kind of like showing them how to create this like other world for the audience. And that is like a really fun thing for me. So yeah, working with them has been great. It's a lot more, so working in drama, I know that all of X, Y, and Z has to be done. There are certain things on a to-do list that need to be done. And I knew that, but like having like an in-depth role in actually making that stuff happen, I kind of got a feel for what goes into a production and how much work it actually is. It's work that I love doing. It's work that I'm passionate about. But it did kind of put things in perspective of how much we actually have to do to create that magical night for the audience.
Yeah.
So,
It's great. Tommy, what's one of the challenges of playing Johnny Hooker? What are you finding that you're up against?
Well, I mean, there are always little stage habits that pretty much every actor has, and I usually do a good job at dropping them. But this year, for some reason, just different, like some stage habits are putting thumbs into your pockets or saying lines with a like laugh or just like certain little nicks that aren't that bad, but they kind of take you out of what you're doing. I feel like that's something that is probably the one thing that I'm going to try and focus on this year.
Yeah, that's great. Excellent. Well, I know, Becky, you referenced trying to do a drama program in the gym basement. Let's talk for just a minute about one of the things I so appreciate about you teachers and all the music and drama folks here is how you make so much out of little space and facilities. We have this wonderful hub that we're sitting in right now, and we're so thankful for it.
Yes.
But it was not designed primarily as a performance space.
Right.
We're doing the best we can with it, and it serves us well up to a point. But it would be really helpful, I think, to just talk some, what does Trinity need? We're beginning these conversations of what kinds of facilities and spaces would help the programs that we have bloom and blossom even more. You students I'd love to hear from you all.
Oh, okay, great. So I
please.
think what Ms. School referenced earlier about having 27 of us in a team room, that's a little cramped. We're very flexible.
Underneath the gym, for those who may not know, the locker rooms basically. We're using
Yeah,
those,
so it's like a small kind of like cube size room. And so that's a little challenging, but we're really flexible in finding creative ways to sort of make that work. And in some ways, it sort of helps us, I guess, visualize what the stage will look like. So we have to make our movements kind of small due to the lack of space. But once we get on stage, we look around and we see, oh my goodness, we have all this space to fill up. And I feel like that kind of helps us kind of reach into our characters and make it fill the entire space that we have. So that, from that perspective, it's helpful. One thing I would say that would be even more helpful would be to have our own stage, because when it comes around to production week, we get like 2 or 3 days that are on our actual stage that we'll actually be performing on.
At the Arts Council.
At the
right?
Arts Council, yes. So from that look, it would be nice to kind of get into that space earlier, so we would know, okay, so I'm moving from stage left to stage right, but how long is it going to take me to get there? And what might I need to change in my blocking in order to make that transition easier?
I'd pretty much say exactly the same as Jess said. I believe that, really I can't think of anything else to add. That's pretty much all of it. Yeah. But definitely having our own space would help, because particularly from what I've seen, the freshmen and rising sophomores who move in, who have not been in a stage that's an actual stage yet, it always takes them back a few steps, and it's kind of a shock to just say, okay, you've been performing in smaller spaces, not real stage area, you don't get a feel for it, and then chucking them into a completely new space and saying, work with it, can sometimes help in terms of forcing them to adapt, but also not having to adapt in the first place.
There's value in that.
And vocal ensemble too, because right now we're doing this swing dance piece called Peroxide Swing, and it's a very fun piece. Annette, who's our choreographer, is coming in today to work on it with us. We have couples who are doing all sorts of moves, and we're going from side to side and kicks and all these really fun, great moves. But we have to kind of restrict what we're doing because we're in such a small room and we don't want to hit anybody or run into anything or anything like that. So to have a stage where we could spread out and really learn the moves full out would be definitely very helpful.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, that's great.
One of the thoughts that I've had, especially as we are in production week right now for Singing in the Rain, is just having a space to work on the technical things like painting sets. So it would be a great to have like a workroom where we could leave set flats that are being painted to dry and not have to pick them up and move them and store them somewhere else in the meantime. So having that workspace where you could kind of the creative juices could kind of keep flowing, and because often I find with things like a set, I look at it, we paint it, and then the more I look at it, I go, oh, we could add this or we could add that, and to have the space to kind of walk in there and envision what that would look like on a stage maybe that was that we were working on and we knew we were going to be in, or to bring those sets in a little bit earlier and go, oh, this doesn't quite fill the scene the way I thought it would, to be able to get a vision for that, having that workspace in the classrooms that would classrooms that kind of would be better suited to more suited to the needs of something like choreography or blocking. That would be a great asset to the arts, and I think would allow us to really grow and to develop some of those technical opportunities like you were talking about.
Right. There's, in terms of the technical, absolutely. Just we're sort of hamstrung by not being able to work and leave and look and manipulate. It all has to go back to get out of the way of the robotics crew or a sports team or whatever. And that does then hinder our ability to include a lot of kids in that technical side of the theater. And there's something about space in general. I mean, one of the blessings of the team room is that it is for that hour and 10 minutes, it is ours. And so we're there, and I think that helps foster that sense of team and community. But it would be great to be able to do that on a stage or in a dedicated drama space, so that you can still have that clear sense of community, but it's yours, and you can make that transition to the performance space sooner, and that would absolutely help with everything from blocking to set painting to just the work that the kids bring to their characters, because it matters how long it takes you to cross from stage right to stage left. And as you said, what are you doing? Now it takes you 2 minutes as opposed to 2 steps. And so that affects your character. So it's all of a piece. It's sort of hard to even pull out the thing that would be most impacted by our having our own space.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate what you all are sharing. I think it's great that we have these programs that are thriving, really, and they're showing us what we need as a school, and we need practice space, we need performance space, we need the sort of maker space that you all are talking about, where we can create sets and all sorts of things, props, and so these are spaces that we're beginning to talk about as a school, about how could we do this, and to do that we have to raise money, but I'm just going to say you all are our best fundraisers. And if you want to hear the case for Trinity's arts, for supporting Trinity's arts, come out to, I'm speaking to our parents now and families, come out to the middle school drama, middle school musical this weekend, come to the upper school play in April, and you'll see why this makes sense, and how I have never been to Trinity play that I haven't walked away and thought, this is why we need the arts. It makes so much sense. So thank you, all of y'all, for your involvement, and thanks for joining me today in this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Non nobis.